Hello guys, just Goran here and welcome back to Building the Beekse Bergen, and today we are going to start off with a couple of comparison cinematics at the entrance of our zoo, where I have remade a bunch of signs using the new plank signs from the Australia DLC pack. So over here we have the front of the entrance and you can see our entrance prize sign. This is the old one. And as we pass by the street, we're going to switch to the new one, and you can see it's a huge difference. I recreated the zoo's logo, got all the prices on there and everything, and it looks pretty amazing. Over here we can see it again in a comparison. And we're also going to move over to the next sign on the right over there. It's the guest services and group entrance sign, which is now a lot cleaner and smaller as well. And here we pass by that one again, and we're going to go through the entrance and look at the sign that is advertising the subscription to the zoo. And yeah, that is also a huge improvement. And over here on the right you can see a very small change to the Zawadi sign. Okay, this kind of sucks, but as I was going back and forth making screenshots of the old signs and the new signs, I accidentally saved over the new signs with the save file of the old signs, so that means I lost about 2 weeks of progress. Now luckily I still had a save file on my laptop of last week, so at least I didn't lose 2 weeks of progress. I only lost yesterday. However, that does mean there's now quite a long list of things I have to redo until I get back to you. So I'll just go ahead and do that. Alright, bit of a brighter background. I went in and recreated all of the signs and it turned out really well. Whenever you have to redo something, don't beat yourself up over it, just take it as an opportunity to do better, and that's what I did. So let's look at some pictures, because I'm not doing a cinematics again, that's way too much work. Let's look at the pictures. So here we have the ticket prices sign, and the original looked like this, as you saw in the cinematics just now. Then this was my first recreation, and now I tried to do better, and we have this. And I have to say I'm really happy with it. It's much cleaner with all the metal rings, and I got more detail in, and it's just really good. So next up we have the guest services and the group entrance sign, which used to be pretty big to hide the other signs inside of it and had that little ugly, but then I upgraded it. It's much smaller because of the new planks, and it just looked way better. But now I went and redid it, and I got the little question mark thing in. I redid the eye to make it out of wood and a lot less reflective, so that's also a nice addition. And I redid the pieces of wood that hold the sign. Then next up we have the sign that is advertising the subscription to the zoo. It says a whole year of safari, the subscription is only so much, and this is what it used to look like. really crappy. And now we went in and completely revamped it and added the little giraffes, but of course we lost it, and now I didn't have much to add to this one. I just added another giraffe, and I also redid some of the roofing because I noticed it was a bit off, so there's that, but that's just about it. Then we have this sign which informs the guests of the closing time of the zoo. On this picture it says 16 o'clock, but it's actually 19 right now. 16 was the winter closing time, but over here we had it first, no detail at all. Then I cleaned it up, and with the new signs I added the text, but we lost that one, so redid it, and the alignment is now way better. It's a lot cleaner around it as well because of the other sign, but yeah, there's not much to say about this one. It's just very nice and compact and tiny, which is great. And last but definitely not least, the Zawadi gift shop sign, which used to be just straight lettering. Couldn't do anything fancy with this one because of how tiny it was, but with the new planks I figured I could get that little curve in. But now one of the biggest glow ups, I'm super happy with what I did to this one. I got the shading of the lettering in there and all those little bricks and damages to the sign. It just looks so good. I'm really happy with it. In the future I might try to change those round pillars to something more square, but I can't really find anything of the right material. So I still have to look into that, but as of now I'm really happy with this. Okay, I feel like I'm talking about these signs for way too long, but let me show you one more thing before we move on. Here we are in the old zoo file with the old signs, and I will show you the worst part about them if we make it nighttime. you see that all of these signs light up. This one's particularly horrible. It is a green light because the color of the sign is green. And whenever I complain about this, I always got comments like, oh, you can just change the color of the light and then it won't emit light anymore. And that works for things like windows. If you change the Windows color to black, it indeed looks as if it's turned off. But these signs emit light based on the color of the text. And this one is based on the color of the sign and the color of the text. Basically, there's no way to get these to look good, which is just stupid. And I thought the update would fix it, because you can now actually turn off lamps at all times, or turn them on at all times. But sadly, that really only works for lights. You cannot turn off signs, and worse, perhaps even worse, you cannot turn off the light of these awesome little pieces that I would totally use if it weren't for the fact that they emit light. Alright, so here we are in the file with the new signs, and as you can quite clearly see, none of the signs light up because we use the new planks from the Australia pack, and it all looks really good. Now, there are a bunch of other things I did around the park with the new items from the Australia pack, but I won't go over everything here. You can actually look at those changes yourself, because as of the latest episode I have started updating my workshop file every time I upload a video. So once this episode goes live and you're watching it right now, there will be a new version of the park available for you to download, and you can check out all the things I changed in between this episode and the last. But enough talk about signs, let's actually get on with the episode, starting off by looking at this last cinematic of all the changes I've made in the tiger habitat area since the last episode. I've added a bunch of foliage, finished all the viewing areas, fixed up the paths. I actually did an almost impossible pathing situation, which I'll probably show you in a bit. Put in all the rope fences and just kind of neaten everything up. There is still a lot to be done, but we'll get to that in the rest of this episode, starting now. Alright, hope you like that little cinematic, but here we are in the real park, checking out the things you just saw, and let's start off with that impossible path I mentioned. It is this one. I could not tell you how I managed to do this. I started off with a square path over here. I attached some path to it in an attempt to keep the square shape, and I managed to branch off of it in the exact right way. And I tried it once, it didn't work. I tried it again and I got it to work, and I hope I never have to get it to work again, because I almost did when I saved over the wrong save file, and I'm really glad I was able to get this back, because it would have been a real tough one. But other changes in this area include that I've kind of slightly changed the layout of the fence. This is now a lot more straight, which is what it's meant to be, and it goes a bit more into there rather than curve off right away. What you can also see is the brand new corrugated metal walls have been used to create the corrugated fence rather than using the corrugated fence. I like the look of this texture a lot more. It's also more accurate to real life, so that's really cool. I was actually already debating whether or not I should make my own corrugated walls using pieces and to actually make the corrugated shape, but those would have been a lot of pieces, so I'm really glad we got these because they save a lot of that. Oh, I love it when they walk over here. But now we get into Trouble Town. As we move along this path, guess who doesn't have enough reference? As usual, it's always the same, isn't it? Luckily, I'm going to the zoo tomorrow, so I wrote down a whole bunch of things, starting with check out how this fence goes, and check out this little nook over here, and check out this building, because I have no idea. Like, okay, look at this picture. What shape does this building have? It looks like it's like 10 centimeters wide, and then it just goes into somewhere. Like, I don't understand this picture. And yeah, then I don't exactly know how this fence goes, and more frustratingly, at some point this brick road turns into sand. So basically I want to get a whole bunch of panorama shots over here so I can kind of relate things to one another, because I know what stuff looks like, I just don't know where exactly I should place them. So yeah, that's what panorama shots work wonders for. But yeah, what are we going to do for today then? Because there is still a lot of time left, and I mean, I'm going tomorrow. I still want to get the most out of the rest of today while I have time to build. So I think I'm gonna go work on revamping the reptile house. And the first thing that we should do is, if we take a look at the reptile house, the first thing you might notice over here is the color of it. It is actually green. Now, sadly, the metal plank walls, which look exactly like the ones that we should have, are not recolorable. So how do we solve that? Well, you can already see it over here. I kind of spoiled it, but I made my own metal plank walls out of girders and art pieces. So what does that look like? Well, So what does that look like? Well, like this. It's kind of dark, but in real life it's also pretty dark when it's in the shade. But when the sun shines on it like this, you can see that same green color, especially on this side. Alright, here we are back again, and it ended up pretty late for me. It's currently almost 2 AM, so I really should be going to bed if I want to catch my train tomorrow to go to the zoo. But let's take a quick look around the now kind of completed exterior of the reptile house, everything apart from the roof. But overall we are getting very close to a point where I am content with this. Alright, I'm back from the zoo. What have I learned? Well, there's a couple things that aren't that fun. Let's start with this one though, because apparently this building indeed has the weirdest shape possible. Now, from what I understand is that yes, it has like 10 centimeters here, and then it goes in, straight, out, it's just a pointy thingy, and here's another door. Then that goes this way, and then like this, that, but there is indeed the pointy thing. Yeah, things over here were a lot different than I had them in my head, so it's a good thing I visited. But the main problem we are gonna face here is, if you look at this over here, you can see where the halfway point of the building is. And why is that important? Well, the windows are supposed to be on this half of the building, and they are they're not. They are way across. You might think that that's not a problem, and oh, we can just kind of stretch this side a bit, but the roof, I really want to make a detailed roof. And yeah, the girders are going to go from the wall to the ceiling, and the reason we can't just stretch that all is that in between each of the girders is going to be a window. So from above we cannot have these windows be a lot bigger than these windows. That is just going to look off. Okay, it took some remodeling, but the things are all in. Smaller spaces in between them, and I've made the windows one stripe smaller as well, so they still look about the same, but they are noticeably smaller, because right now, as you can see, one stripe on either side of the window. So the window is about 4 meters wide up until here, where it also has like one stripe left, and yeah, it's halfway on the halfway point of the building. And I did the same thing over here. Also implemented the smaller windows. Now this one is also on the halfway point of this side, which it should be as far as I'm aware, because I can measure that by looking at the support beams, and there's one support beam, two support beam, third support beam is on this side of the window, and then yeah, one more, etc, etc. So that all works out. Now I just have to kind of clean up the rest of the inside, put the support beams back in now that they have their proper places, and then I'm gonna have to closely look at my reference photos, because it might be that the crocodile habitat actually needs to be a bit wider or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. I really eyeballed the inside of this place because I didn't really have any like top-down perspectives. I mean, they're kind of hard to make. So yeah, now that we actually have a measuring point of this needing to be in the middle of the building, I can actually take a look at whether or not that lines up with how we currently have it. Alright, so as you can see in this picture, the upper platform has quite a bit of wall underneath it before the window starts, so I think that does mean that we don't have to change the layout of the crocodile habitat. It is all good and has actually only gotten better because we fixed up the windows. So that is fantastic news. Alright, I've been hard at work. I recorded a bunch of clips showing in between bits and it was all kind of uninteresting, so I decided to just go in and finish it. So there's a lot to talk about, so let's do one final tour and then wrap off the video. We will work on the exterior in the next video. I'm actually gonna see if I can get a Teget cam so that we can walk in nice and slow. Alright, so here we are approaching the I always call it the reptile house, but it's not really a reptile house. I mean, all it has is crocodiles and hippos. But yeah, here we are approaching the reptile house. Let me look up the actual word for it. Now, never mind, I can't find a suitable word, but let's head in and we'll dive into the changes. Well, change number one, there's a door. It's an automatic slider door, so just pretend it slid open for us. And here we are on the inside. Look at that. There is too much to take in, I assume. So let me just take you through it piece by piece. So first of all, on the left over here, we have some information signs about crocodile related things. There's a crocodile skull. There is some crocodile eggs. In real life, there's also a crocodile leg, just out of plastic. Didn't really know how to tackle that one, so I just left it out and just kept these two things so it looks a bit nice in the scale. Well, yeah, really happy with how those turned out. Now let's turn around and we've got ourselves a pretty derpy looking sign on the null crocodiles, but we have the habitat over here that they are just chilling. And there's one important thing to mention that you might notice if you have been paying attention, and it is that I hired up the crocodile habitat. I made it well, it's a little bit higher than ground level. It's supposed to be at the crocodile's land bit is supposed to be at the same level as the ground here, but because of the way that Planet Zoo deals with water, it had to be either way below, which is what I had it at, or it had to be, well, this height, and I opted for this one because it's much closer to real life. And the only downside to it was that I couldn't have the waterfall effects anymore, because the little ripples over the water would spill out onto the path here. So instead I used just the water spray things, the fountains, and hid them way down into the ground so that only the top of the water beam spray is what you can see right here, and it still gives a bit of that splashing effect, which I'm pretty happy with. So if we continue walking along here, we will get to another amazing looking thing, but let's first check out back here. There is a staff path going to the hippo habitat. That is probably going to be a undetailed area, as we do with most of these staff areas. I'm pretty much dedicated on making all the areas accessible to viewers or to visitors as detailed as I can, and then the staff areas are going to be very utilitarian to actually keep the zoo running in a way that Planet Zoo deals with it, so actually putting staff rooms and keeper huts in those unreachable areas. But yeah, over here we've got our first look at the upper platform, from which you are also able to view the animals, and we've got a bit of an underground feeling almost, I guess. Underneath that little platform we have another view of the crocodiles in their green lights. I'm so happy that we're able to turn on lights during the day now, because that makes me able to put those green lights in, which is kind of an iconic thing for this area in my opinion. Like, I'm always intrigued by those green lights. They probably have a function, like a heat lamp for the crocodiles or something, but I always think they're very intriguing, and I'm happy I've been able to put them in. And yeah, we're able to have another look at our waterfall. And what I love about this waterfall, and we'll have a better look at it when we actually get up, but I love how jank it is. I love how it's just it's super broken and it doesn't work that well, but you know, it kind of gets the job done. A lot of builds that people make in Planet Zoo are like what an architect would imagine a zoo to be like, but then when you actually build it, you have to cut a lot of corners. So that's what I really like about this waterfall, because this is one of those cut corners, and it's just, this is what you see in a real life zoo instead of the super realistic looking waterfalls and stuff. So yeah, let's turn around. I'm not sure if we're able to climb these stairs. They're not functional. If you remember, in a very old episode, I actually tried to make these functional. I might put a screenshot up now. I kind of succeeded, but the guest can't actually climb 2-meter staircases. So yeah, it was all for nothing. So if they can't use it anyway, I might as well just completely customize it. So that's why we have these awesome looking staircases. And these logs that you can see over here are actually made up out of the thin planks. And yeah, that gives you a very thin log to work with, which is very nice. And actually the small rope coil actually coils around that perfectly, which is really great. So moving up to here, oh, I forgot I put the male in because I wanted to see what the size of him looked like. He's actually not that much bigger than the female, interestingly enough. But yeah, this is the indoor hippo habitat, and don't worry, I'm not keeping both of them in here. 2 of them are gonna spend their time outside, and 1 of them is gonna stay inside, just to kind of show that this is indeed a hippo habitat. But yeah. I made a bunch of little changes to it. I recolored a lot of the tiles to make them look a bit more grimy or worn down. But other than that, there isn't much to talk about it. This is actually one of the few things in this reptile house, or whatever to call it, that hasn't changed all that much when we started this redesign this episode, because yeah, this has been here for a very long time, and only now have we really gotten to recreating it. Oh, don't fall in, wouldn't want that. Yeah, I guess the biggest change in here is that I've added an extra step in this, so it's kind of like a staircase. But yeah, other than that, there isn't really much different, so it's really cool. And he is spraying. Thanks for that. Yeah, this place always really smells. But we'll get to the smell in a bit. Let's see if we can climb these stairs. I highly doubt it. Oh, we actually can! Oh, that is amazing. Come on. Yeah, all the way. All the way, all the way. Oh, we can't get on. Oh, we shot on. Okay, we can't walk slowly up here. It doesn't like that. But, alright, so we have a view from up here now. We can see our jank waterfall. We can't really see all the jank back there quite yet. We'll take another look when we leave Tagit Cam. But what we can see very well from up here is the ceiling and all of the windows in the ceiling. I've gone for a less rounded window than we did with the rhino and elephant stalls, mainly so I could get these new metal beam pieces in there as a support structure. I'm quite happy with how those look. And what is also a pretty cool detail is that some of the windows are opened. Actually, all of the ones that can be opened are opened. Every window that's like, there's one window on the edge and then the one next to that on both edges has a little mechanism that allows it to be electronically opened. So I recreated that, and yeah, that probably helps with the air filtration, but of course in the winter you can't really open those. That is for the hot summer months. But what we also have is this ventilation system. We have a big ventilation shaft and then these tubes going all the way to the other side, and on each tube there are 4 of these little ventilation things attached to them. There's also attached to these girders that keep the ceiling in place these little yeah, they're supposed to be metal, but I couldn't really find a piece that suited that. So there's these metal tubes that kind of hold all the electrical wires for the lamps, which aren't turned on. These are just utilitarian lamps for at night, I would assume. Actually, little disclaimer before anyone is going to go off and comment like, oh, these habitats are so tiny, the green lamps are this must be the worst unethical zoo ever. No, but, I'm working at a scale. Yeah, the zoo is so big and has so much space for the animals, in fact, yeah, that it is too big to fit in the Planet Zoo map, so I have to work at a scaled down version of the zoo. So that's why some of the habitats might look so much smaller than they actually are, and it really shows. The hippos in particular in Planet Zoo are a bit bigger than they are in real life. One more detail like we've almost so put them in a habitat railing smaller than it is in real life, and it's gonna look tiny. So no, the zoo is not unethical. It's just same ones that we use the scale of my lion habitat. But I mean, we haven't been there in so long. I won't blame you if you've forgotten about them. Can't wait to get to the exterior next time. We're probably gonna start off with the tiger habitat over here, and then work our way to the entrance and work our way around. And yeah, that way we will get to the exterior habitat of the hippos as well. Before we sign off, here's the jank I was talking about. There's a tube kind of hooking up the water of the waterfall, and there's this random brick that I saw up there, and I just thought, well, I'm gonna put that random brick there. Anyway, that is going to be it from me today. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I certainly have enjoyed building this, and I will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
This one is